This is the podcast overview for week 8. We will be continuing to cover chapter 6, Stereotyping, Prejudice, and Discrimination. This week looks a little different than others in that you don't have any new reading except for article number 17, Attitudes versus Actions. So I spend 2 weeks on prejudice, racism, and stereotyping, discrimination. And I do this on purpose, and I said this in the last week's podcast. I really want to dive in to this topic during these 2 weeks. So my advice would be to reread chapter 6. I mean, this is really an opportunity for some of you who might have been struggling with the exams to get a second week with the same material. To really learn it well, read and reread, and you have less material in essence on your exam. So I'm hoping that this extra time will prove helpful for some of you who have been struggling again with the tests. In addition to the article reading, you're going to have a full-length feature movie. It's called Crash. Some of you may have seen it. Came out quite a while ago, but has a lot of famous actors and actresses in it. It won some awards. So it's just a really awesome movie, and I think it really captures nicely the essence of so much of what's covered in the chapter. So I've posted the objectives again here for you. These are the same as last week, so same thing. Again, I would recommend, going through these, maybe making a study guide for yourself. Again, use the Revel resources. That's why I require those Revel resources, because the Revel platform gives you study aids. It gives you study tools. Not only does it provide videos that go along with the chapters aside from the videos I give you, but it gives can have access to flashcards, to practice tests, all of that. So if you've not yet taken advantage of the resources that are there for you, I would highly encourage you and advise you to do that. The lecture slides are the same as last week. I've just put them here again for you. Here's your article reading. It has to do with attitudes versus actions. And I like it because it really encompasses the last chapter, chapter 5, which was all about attitudes lining up with actions, cognitive dissonance, and so forth. But it also pulls in some of this week and last week's material on stereotypes, stereotypical thinking, and how those can have an effect on our behavior. Here is the feature movie that you're going to be watching called Crash. Such a great movie. This movie, I have downloaded it into my video library. So don't use Safari. You want to make sure you're using Chrome or Firefox, something like that. Alternatively, if you don't want to watch it in here, Amazon Prime has it, Hulu, Netflix. If you have those, you have access to those, and if you'd rather watch it in that format, you can do that. Here's some things to be thinking about that are going to help you with this week's discussion. I would recommend looking over this week's discussion so you can see what the questions are. So you kind of have an idea of what to be looking out for while you're watching the film. Now, the discussion questions, I really have you incorporating the reading with the movie, okay? So you're going to want to consult chapter 6 in your main textbook, as well as article reading number 17. You're going to want to tie in concepts from these readings in your explanation to these questions. However, all of these things are seen in the video, in the movie as well. So it's like you're going to the book for kind of like the background data on the concepts and the terminology that you want to be using as you're describing these things. But the movie's where you're going to pull in examples from, okay? So the first question asks, what were 3 instances in the movie where an attitude or a belief of prejudice were based on a stereotype? So where are 3 instances throughout the movie where someone holds a belief or they hold a prejudice of someone else and it was solely based on a stereotype that you know exists about those people, that person, whether it be an ethnic group or a religious group or a racial group, what have you. You can pick any from the movie. The second question, the character of Officer John Ryan, that was Matt Dillon's character, didn't grow up with a prejudiced father. So where might his prejudice stem from? You're going to see his acts of prejudice throughout the movie. Where do you think it might have come from? Remember back to what the book talked about of where prejudice comes from. What does research say? How does prejudice form? Remember the Jane Elliott movie that you saw with her 3rd graders? So I want you to integrate in the chapter, the readings, and any of the videos, the ones from last week, to support your statement and ideas here. You're giving an educated assessment of where you think Matt Dillon's character got his prejudice from. You know, where was it rooted? And so also remember in your writing that a person can display prejudice. A person is prejudiced. that tends to be a very common misuse of the word, the ending, prejudice, CE versus prejudiced, CED. So make sure you're writing that grammar in the correct way, okay? Number 3, describe the us versus them effect. Don't know what that is? Make sure you go back to the reading and check and see. Once you have a full grasp and a good understanding of what the us versus them effect is, then tell me where and with who do we see that happen in the movie? Who displays that phenomenon in the movie? Remember to cite and support your readings here. And then lastly, explain what an intra-group struggle is. Intra-group struggle within an ethnic group. Don't know what that is? Again, go back to the reading and find out what is an intra-group struggle. What does that look like? What does that mean within an ethnic group? And then in the movie, which character was battling an internal or intra-group struggle within his or her own ethnic group? There's definitely 2 that stand out strongly. There might be a couple more, so make sure that you have a good understanding of what an intra-group struggle is before you try to tackle this question. And then I want you to explain it using support from the readings. Okay, once you've done the discussions, you will be ready for exam 3, which covers chapters 5 and 6, 30 questions, 30 minutes, each question worth 2 points, your standard tests that you've been taking. If you have questions throughout this week, please let me know. I would really strongly advise to use your time wisely. Don't race to finish this thinking, oh, we already covered this last week, so I'm just going to do this real quick on Monday or Tuesday and be done with it. You know, if you feel strongly that you're going to ace the exam, great. But I would really honestly take this week and use it to your advantage to really dive into the material and get to know it well, increase your chances of doing well, not only on the discussion posting, but also on the exam. And of course, let me know if you need any help along the way.